Hey family, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are located around the globe. I hope you all are having an amazing day today. And remember that God woke us all up this morning. We fit to do part two of this reaction, y'all, about this 70-year-old lady that went to the cash station, went to the bank out there in Florida somewhere. So this is part two. So I'm not gonna even prolong it. So we're gonna get right into the video, y'all.
and see how badly you're hurt. And so she looked at my bruises and checked me out and pulled my shirt down, and she took me in, and they took me in a little room, and they took all of my clothes, my bra, my underpants, everything, and put me on some other clothes. And then I was transported to the jail. And when I got there, they were feeding the other
Damn.
inmates that were there. And they said, well, do you want to feed her? Because this time it was about 4 o'clock. And she said, if she don't talk to us, she can't eat. And of course, I didn't eat.
Unbelievable.
So they asked the other lady, said, well, what do you want us to do with her? What do you want us to put her? And this big fat officer lady says, I don't want you to put her anywhere where I can't see her. She said, you need to call upstairs and get the supervisor down here. So it was two ladies came down, two supervisors. The first supervisor came over and looked at me, and she took her foot and hit me just as hard as she could on the shin of my legs. Then the other supervisor came, and I have a heart condition. I sleep with a CPAP. I have high blood pressure. She took her fist of her hand and did it like this and nuzzled me in my chest twice, just as hard as she could. Then she took her fingers and put it under the tender part of my arm and pinched me just as hard as she could. And I kind of glanced up at her, and she told them, she said, well, she's all right. She glanced up at me. They said, well, how do you want
Damn.
the supervisor? She said, I'll deal with him. So they took me by
That's
the arms and
crazy,
dragged me on the
y'all.
floor. As they put me in the cell, they took my clothes at the same time. On this cold floor with nothing on, there was a no pillow. There was no real blanket. There was about 3 little scripts like this in there. There was no chair. There was a little toilet like this and a little basin about this big. And there were things crawling on the floor. There were brown spots on the floor that looked like poop. There was white looking paint on the floor. And a little tiny window up at the top. And I stayed there, and they came, and I didn't eat anything. I didn't go to the bathroom. I didn't eat anything the whole time I was there. I ate about 2 bites of a little corn dog about this long before I got out. But then I finally went to sleep, and I kept waking up
Now
because
they need to
somebody
be
would walk
fired.
by and check on me. And the
Wow.
next morning they came, and the lady said, she said, who all wants to take a bath? And when she got to me, she said, well, we know you don't want to take a bath. And she walked on by myself. So this other lady came, and she says, well, we're seeing the psychiatrist today. She said, you think you want to see the psychiatrist today? And I told her, I said, I haven't had a telephone call. I haven't had anything. Nobody, my family doesn't know where I am or anything. So she went to the next cell and got the lady out of the next cell. And finally, a lady came about 3 hours later, and she came to me and she said, Miss Stevens, she said, they're telling us that you're crazy or you're suicidal. She said, you're not. She said, you're not crazy, are you? I said, no. And I kind of told her how I had ended up there. So then about 2 or 3 hours later, a lady came and said, do you want to go to first appearance? Of course, I had to ask her what was first appearance. I said, I don't even know what first appearance is. And all of this happened to me because of that telephone call at Mid-Florida. And so she explained to me that I would be going to a judge. But when she came, she brought me these clothes to put on. And it was a black outfit, and the top had these flowers caked up on it. And I smelled the crouch, and it was
Wow.
stinking. And I said, ma'am, I said, I'm not putting on those filthy pants next to my vaginal area. I said, I'm just not going to do that. She said, but the only other thing I have is a 3X. And so she went and she got the 3X. I said, if it's clean, I'll put it on. And she got it, and they took me to the court, and the lady told me, she said, they were debating whether or not they were even going to charge you. So when I got to the judge, she said, you had bail of $550. She said, you needed to have called somebody to have them to come and set that out. But I found out my husband was already trying to take care of that. So when I went and stood before the judge says to me, he said, Miss Stevens, he said, we're not going to charge you bail. Your bail has been dropped. All you need to do is go home and call in and wait for your court date. All because I went to Mid Florida asking for my money. So then I go back to the jail, and he tells me stay 500 feet from the Mid Florida, don't go out of state, don't get drunk or get high. So when I go back to the jailhouse, they again tell me, we got to take your clothes and you still got to stay in the cell naked. And I was there about 3 or 4 hours before I was dismissed, but in the midst of being there, those additional 3 hours, I stood up and looked, and there was a male person in one of the other rooms who apparently had come in to take out the garbage or something. He's standing there gazing at my naked body. And you're talking about embarrassed and humiliated. I was traumatized. I said, "Oh my goodness." And he just stood there. He didn't, when I looked at him, he just there. He was standing there, just giving him a good eyeful. And I stepped back out of view into the corner.
Wow.
And finally, they came and they brought me my clothes, and they brought me this
she
outfit I
got
had on, and
used
they
to
took me to the jail,
$400
to the sheriff
that
department,
they got
and
stuck
they
up
gave me
in
my
the
clothes to put on, and they said
ATM
you can't give you your pocketbook until you exit the building. And as I was getting ready to exit, they said your husband's called and he's got the information, and they say, but before you walk out of that door, we need to take your mug shot, because they had not done any of that. And at that point, that was when they took my mug shot and had me to fingerprint on the Xerox machine, all because I asked for my money. All of this happened to me.
Unbelievable.
And I left, and then my husband and my daughter picked me up, and my husband took me out, and before we could get back home, there was a call from Mid Florida on my cell phone that I had missed. There was a call on my husband's phone that he had missed. There was a call on our landline that had been missed, all from Mid Florida Credit Union. And she said that her name was Valerie Dollison, and she wanted to come out and talk with me about what had happened, because they had looked at the video. And I asked her, I said, how do you know? She said, well, we looked at it, we saw everything that happened, and we know we want to talk to you about the situation. So I said, I haven't been in 500 feet of Mid Florida. Why do you want to talk to me? She said, well, we want to talk to you. It'll be okay. I just want to come and talk with you. So when she came, she had this white orchid in her hand, and she said, this is for me. She said, this is not for Mid Florida. And so she said to me, she said, I'm here on behalf of Mid Florida Credit Union. And she kept emphasizing, I'm here on behalf of Mid Florida Credit Union. She said, we were wrong. She said, if we had done what we told you we were going to do the day before, you would not have been back at Mid Florida. I said, you are exactly right. She said, we're trying to understand how you felt and how you're feeling. And she said, the president wants to know how you feel. And I said, if you want to know how I feel, I said, think about the fact that if it was your mama, I said, tell the president to think about the fact if it was his mama, or somebody that they knew and loved or something like that that had come in just to ask for their money. I said, that's what he was asking for. She said, well, we were wrong.
Do you love getting high, but smoking hurts your lungs? I've got you covered. You need.
She said, they sent you this $300 gift card. And I was like, what? She said, a $300 gift card. And she left it on the table. And she said they're paying called it a goodwill offering of one house payment for you. And they said, if you need anything, let us know. They said, our attorney is going to take care of everything, that they're going to make this thing wholly disappear, all disappear.
Exactly.
And so later, when time came for me to go to court, the court called me and said, they said somebody was trying to take care of what happened to you.
Now, how you think she feel?
Thing where it went against their interests and they couldn't do anything. But they said, anyway, the state attorney's office had just dropped the whole case. So I got to say absolutely nothing. But I was just traumatized. I was humiliated. I was dehumanized, all because I wanted my money that I had placed in a bank that I had been banking with at that time some 47 and a half years. They had financed my house, and to pay my mortgage was what I was trying to do, because they have my house mortgage now. I have a truck finance through them now. And I went through all of that just to, I don't understand. And right now I have a psychiatrist. I've seen my psychiatrist.
They'll be giving up more than $300 motherfucking dollars.
She said that I'm dealing with post-traumatic stress syndrome.
The
She's
Crump,
got me
you
on
take 'em
3
to the bank.
meds. She's got me on 2 to help keep me level. She's got me on 1 to help keep the nightmares away. I have a therapist who teaching me all these games and things to help me to deal with this situation when it comes up, because it constantly comes up. And I made the mistake of watching this thing on television the other night where this young man was brutally killed by the police. That thing just went all over me because his hands were handcuffed behind his back. And I shouldn't have watched it, but I went through it all back over again, and I saw my therapist on yesterday. I was with my
Wow.
psychiatrist
Wow.
last week, and it's
Been
just
thinking that for 40
more than I
something
can deal
years,
with.
y'all. And this how she get treated.
Thank you, Miss Stevens, for bearing your heart.
Well, that's the end of that video, y'all. She needed Mr. Attorney Crump. You need to take them straight to the bank so she can get paid. Cause that's crazy treating that lady like that for her doggone money, y'all. Y'all keep y'all circle small. Watch your surroundings. And remember, everybody's not your friend. I'll see y'all in the next video.